It's World Cup week, everyone, and I, for one, am excited. But the World Cup does have a dark side, and we'll be exploring that in the latest episode of The Crime Agents. We'll be looking at the terror threat, we'll be looking at football hooliganism, and we'll also be asking what Trump's ICE agents will be doing during the tournament. And just to remind everyone, our episodes are now out on Monday, and we'll be doing Q&As every Thursday. Have a listen.
We need to talk about what's actually happening. Donald Trump is back in the White House, and his administration's foreign policy has created a genuine crisis for this tournament. The constant talk about annexing Greenland, which is part of Denmark, a NATO ally, has created real tension with European nations. And these aren't just random countries we're talking about. These are major footballing powers. Trump's approach to the Greenland situation has been concerning for European leaders. At one point, he stated the US would be, frankly, unstoppable if they used excessive strength and force to acquire it. For a country about to host the world's biggest sporting event, threatening military action against allies sends a deeply problematic message. Then, there were the tariff threats. Trump threatened to impose a 10% tariff on 8 European countries: Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the UK, Netherlands, and Finland. Around the same time as the Greenland dust-up. Coincidence or part of the pressure play? He later walked these back, but the damage to diplomatic relations was already done. And critically for football, these countries represent some of the biggest federations in the sport: Germany, France, England, the Netherlands. These are the teams that drive global viewership and make the World Cup financially viable. But beyond diplomatic tensions, there are concrete, practical issues that are affecting the tournament directly. For countries competing in this World Cup, Senegal, Ivory Coast, Iran, and Haiti are subject to travel bans that effectively prevent their citizens from entering the United States. So you have national teams whose own fans cannot come to support them. Imagine qualifying for the World Cup and then having to tell your supporters they're not allowed to attend. And it's not just about official bans. The broader climate around immigration enforcement in the United States has made many international visitors genuinely concerned about traveling there. ICE operations have been extensive, and there have been incidents involving both American citizens and legal visitors that have raised serious questions about due process and safety. A Swiss criminal lawyer, Mark Peeth, publicly advised fans to stay at home and watch on television instead, citing concerns about unpredictable enforcement and the risk of detention or deportation. And remarkably, Sepp Blatter, yes, the former FIFA president who resigned amid corruption scandals, endorsed these concerns. When someone with Blatter's history is sounding more cautious than current officials, that should tell you something about how the situation is being perceived internationally. This is the most politically complicated World Cup in modern history, and we're covering every angle from now until kickoff. Now, let's talk about what's really making FIFA nervous: the boycott discussions.
I just read that the Somalian referee has been denied entry. Every few hours, it's another story. Another story about fans denied, players denied, officials denied, journalists denied. Now refs. You know something, I'm laughing, but it's not funny. It's actually not funny. Something has to be said. It's expensive tickets, the most expensive tickets ever. Expensive accommodation, transport through the roof. It has to be said. You know, is this how the hosts behave, really, for the greatest game, the greatest tournament in the world? Is this how the hosts behave? Are we not hearing more? Are we seeing how Qatar got dragged? Are we not hearing more? Is this the spirit of football? Really? You know who I feel for? I feel for the American fans who are desperate for this. American soccer fans who are desperate for this. How embarrassed they must be. how embarrassing for them this must be. This is, you know what, this is the World Cup. This is a World Cup of chaos. Whoever wins this World Cup is going to have to go through some serious chaos to get this done. I hope we can do it. But something has to be said now. This is just like, this is the World Cup.
Gottlich, Vice President of the German Football Association and President of St. Pauli, made waves when he publicly stated that the time had come to seriously consider boycotting the 2026 World Cup. He referenced the Olympic boycotts of the 1980s and asked a legitimate question. If those were justified based on the threats at the time, why wouldn't a boycott be justified now? This matters because Germany isn't some minor federation trying to make headlines. Germany is one of the pillars of world football. They bring millions of viewers globally. They fill stadiums. Their presence makes sponsors happy and justifies the massive broadcasting deals that fund the tournament. Even a whisper of a boycott from a powerhouse like Germany sends shivers through FIFA's boardroom. And Germany isn't alone in expressing concerns. In the Netherlands, over 155,000 people signed a petition calling for the Dutch national team to boycott the tournament. British NPS suggested England and Scotland should consider withdrawal following Trump's threats regarding Greenland. In South Africa, opposition leaders called for their national team to withdraw, drawing parallels between current U.S. policies and the international pressure that helped end apartheid. What's significant about these voices is that they're not coming from fringe groups or online activists. These are discussions happening within football federations, amongst politicians, and in mainstream media. The conversation has moved from should we protest to should we actually not go. But here's where we need to be realistic. Despite all of this, a full boycott remains highly unlikely. The reasons are straightforward. World Cups happen every 4 years. For many players, this represents their only chance to compete on the biggest stage in football. For others in their early 30s, this is their last opportunity. Asking these athletes to sacrifice that for a political statement is an enormous ask. And that's not a criticism of the players. It's simply acknowledging the human reality of the situation. Beyond the players, there are the federations themselves. They have sponsorship agreements worth millions. They have broadcasting contracts. They have financial commitments that would be catastrophic to break without an extraordinary reason. Qatar happened despite significant controversy. Russia happened despite the Crimea invasion. The economic machinery of the World Cup is incredibly difficult to stop once it's in motion. However, and this is crucial, there's something fundamentally different about this situation compared to previous controversies. Russia and Qatar faced criticism for their internal policies and past actions. But this is about the host nation actively threatening and alienating the very countries whose teams it's supposed to be hosting. That's genuinely new territory.